All right. So before we start, just a quick mention of our disclaimer. The information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategies team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information are not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney client or any other advisory relationship. Reproduction of this information is expressly prohibited, and only non commercial uses of this work are permitted. All right, so today we're going to discuss why and when you should be using your time space calculation. We're going to talk a little bit about how it works, and we're going to discuss the differences between regular and exclusive use. Okay. All right. Now, if you are unmuted and I want to send over one more request to go ahead and mute yourselves so that there's no extra feedback and everybody in the room are able, everyone in the room is able to hear. If you're not able to mute yourselves, just let me know and I can do that for you. All right, so as a home-based family childcare program, many of your expenses are both for your business and for your personal home use. So, how do you figure out how much of your expenses are considered business expenses? Excuse me. The answer is simpler than you might think. So, using the time space calculation, our family home childcare providers can figure out what percentage of their expenses can be deducted on your federal income taxes. Now, common expenses incurred by in home childcare services include your rent, your mortgage, your property taxes, utilities, and other housing expenses that are necessary for your in home business, such as maybe maintenance or repairs. Now, do you know if you have expenses that are solely dedicated to your business and have no elements of common use, such as a phone line that's only used for your childcare business, or maybe the purchase of outdoor equipment that is exclusively used by your daycare children? Now, those expenses can be reimbursed at 100% of cost and are not subject to the time space calculation. So when you're claiming those deductions at the end of the year, you don't have to take a percentage of those expenses as they are 100% exclusively used for your childcare. Okay. And don't forget to drop your questions or feel free to come off mute if you um, have something that's really pressing. I'm going to move my questions over here so I can see them as we go, just in case someone has one. All right. So the time space percentage represents the portion of your home expenses that you can attribute to your business. So to determine this percentage, you can use the time space calculation, which is basically a straightforward method that takes into account both the temporal and spatial aspects of your home's business use. So the temporal aspect looks at the amount of time that your home is used for business purposes compared to the total number of hours that are in a year. This helps to determine the percentage of time your home is dedicated to business activities. Now, the spatial aspect examines the square footage of your home, and that's the square footage that's used exclusively for your business purposes and compared to the total square footage of your home. Now, this allows you to calculate the percentage of your home space that is allocated for your business. Now, by considering both the number of hours and the amount of space your home is used for business, the time space calculation provides a comprehensive approach to determining the portion of your home expenses that can legitimately be attributed to your business operations. So let's take a closer look at the steps and how we perform these calculations. So we'll start by discussing how you're going to calculate the time space. So you can determine the time space calculation by using these 6 easy steps. Step one, you're going to determine the square footage of your regular use space. Step two is to divide the number that you come up with by your home's total square footage. Step three is to determine the amount of time that your home was used for childcare. And then you're going to divide the hours by 8,760, which just so happens to be the total hours in a year. Then step five, you're going to multiply the time and the space percentages. So you'll be able to come up with a percentage for both time and a percentage for both space. And you're simply going to multiply those together, and we'll run through some examples. And um, then you're going to step six, divide the exclusive use space by the total square footage of the home, and then simply add it to the results from step five. Now, using these steps, you can easily determine how many of your expenses can be reimbursed using grant funds or be deducted on your federal taxes. Now, in your time space percentage, you will classify your space as either regular use or exclusive use. It's important to know how to distinguish these spaces and how they should be included in time space if they're applicable. So let's run over a few examples. First, let's do the definitions. Regular use, um, those are areas that may be used all day, such as maybe a play area, or for only part of the day, like a napping area. Now, these are considered regular use because the spaces have other uses during non business hours for your personal use. Now, whether the space is used all day or just part of the day for your business, it counts towards your space calculation. So you want to add the square footage of each of your regularly used spaces together, and that will help you determine the area of your home that you use regularly for your childcare business. Now, exclusive use, on the other hand, are areas that are only used for your childcare program and nothing else. Now, these are considered exclusive because you and other members of your household do not use the space at all, other than for the childcare business purposes. Now you want to add your square footage of each of your exclusively used spaces together, and that will help you to determine the area of your home that you exclusively use for your childcare business. Now, the time portion of time space calculation weighs how much time your regular use areas are used for your business, and exclusively used spaces are weighted at 100% because there are no other uses for those spaces. Whereas regular use spaces are weighed at the portion of time that you used your home for business purposes. Now, here's a more detailed explanation. Exclusive use in a childcare business context means that a specific area of your home is solely dedicated to the childcare business activities and is not used for any personal purpose. For instance, if a provider has a designated playroom that is exclusively used for childcare activities and never used for personal activities, such as maybe a gathering for leisure time, then that space has exclusive use for the childcare business. Now, in this scenario, of course, you are going to be able to claim 100% of the expenses related to that space as a business deduction. Now, regular use, on the other hand, refers to the space in the home that are used for both the childcare business activities and personal use, as we mentioned. These areas are utilized for childcare activities part of the time and personal activities all the other times. Now, here's an example. If you are conducting educational sessions and also for personal activities, like maybe you have family movie nights, then that space is a regular use space. Now, in such cases, you'll need to calculate the percentage of time and space exclusively dedicated to childcare business activities to determine the portion of expenses that can be claimed as a business deduction. Now, this is simply calculated by figuring out what percentage of the space of your home is used for business, as well as the percentage of time that is used for business. A couple more examples for you. Let's say exclusive use would be having a separate basement entrance that is only used by your families for the childcare business, or maybe a storage room that you have that contains toys and supplies for the business. Now, on the other hand, regular use would be using the bedroom daily for nap time. Uh, of course, that's for your daycare children, or using your living room, maybe on every Wednesday for, let's say, a STEM activity. Now, as I previously mentioned, exclusive use space can be fully deducted based on the percentage of your total home square footage, since it is 100% for business. And regular use is deductible based on the percentage of time that it's used for business rather than personal purposes. So, properly documenting both types of usage is key in justifying your deductions. All right, so we're going to go by these step by step and show how we come up with these calculations. So the first step is to determine the square footage of the area in your home that is regularly used for childcare. So to calculate your square footage, you'll first need to measure the length and the width of your space. Uh, Now, if you have exclusive use spaces, we will address this in a later step. Right now, we're going to start by calculating your regular use space. Okay. So, using a tape measure, you're going to start at one end of your room, preferably the longest end or the longest wall, and extend it to the other end of the room. And then once you get that measurement, you're going to record it in feet, not inches. Next, you'll do the same thing on the opposite wall, the shortest end of the wall or the shortest wall. And you will do the same thing. You will record what you found in feet and not inches. Okay. Next, you're going to multiply the length measurement by the width measurement to find your square footage. Simple formula to remember is length times width equals square footage. So here's an example. If your space is 12 feet long and 10 feet wide, then your square footage would be 120 feet, because you're simply going to take your 12, multiply it by your 10 feet, and that gives you 120 square feet. Now, take into account that if you happen to have some oddly shaped spaces, such as a room with an extra nook, or maybe it's filled by a closet, you're simply going to break your room into smaller rectangular blocks and use that square footage calculation that we just provided. Apply that to each of those blocks and then just simply add those together once you get all of the calculations. Now, step two is to divide the square footage of regularly used childcare space by the square footage of your home to determine a percentage. So to do this, you're going to take the number of square feet on the childcare space and divide it by the total square footage of your home. Now, here's an example. If you regularly use 500 square feet of your home for your childcare space, and the home is, let's say, 1,000 square feet, then the results would be a decimal, which is 0.50. You're going to multiply that by 100, and you'll get the percentage, which is basically 50%. Now, it's important to note that the square footage of outdoor areas cannot be included in the time space calculation. I'm going to repeat that. The square footage of outdoor areas cannot be included in your time space calculation. Now, there is a caveat. External spaces that are physically attached to your home and regularly used for your childcare, let's say a deck, for example, that can be included in your time space calculation. Okay. I'm sure we'll probably have more questions on that, but please make sure you jot those down so that we can address those in the big room with everyone. All right. So now that you know the amount of space used for your childcare, we need to determine the amount of time used for your childcare during the year. So to do this, we calculate how many hours your childcare space is open per week. And you want to be sure to include the time that you spend preparing, cleaning up when the children are not present. Oftentimes providers will miss this step, but it's very important to add that in. You also want to multiply this number by the number of weeks that you were open for service, and then add any work hours that you performed while you were closed. So let's take a look at an example on how that works. Let's say your business is open for 10 hours per day for childcare, but you spend an hour beforehand preparing and an hour after cleaning up. So that is a total of 12 hours per day. We're going to assume that this provider is working 5 days a week. So let's say that the provider closed for 4 weeks, but during that time, they spent 10 hours total of maintaining that childcare space and preparing for reopening. So then comes that math. So we have 12 hours a day, and you're going to multiply that by your 5 days a week. And then you're going to also multiply that by 48 weeks that you're open, because we're going to subtract that time that the business was closed out of the 52. And then we're going to add those 10 hours when you were closed. So the grand total will be then 2,890 hours. Hope everybody was able to understand that clearly. Then we're going to move on to step 4, which is divide the hours your home was used for childcare by the total hours in the year. Now, here's an example. Let's divide the number 2,890, or let's divide our 2,890 hours that we calculated by the 8,760 that we got at the very beginning, which is basically the total number of hours in a year. That's going to give us a decimal of 0.329. We're going to then multiply that by 100 and get our percentage of 32.9. So that's the 1%. You're going to set that aside, and you're going to go ahead and get your second percent out of step 5. So we're going to multiply the percentage of the space that you regularly used in the home by the percentage of the time of your home that you use for your business to determine the portion of your home expenses that are for business use. So you're going to take that square footage percentage and the hours per year percentage, and you're simply going to multiply them together. So in our example, that would be that 45.4% that you came up with. You're going to convert that back to a decimal, and you're going to multiply that by that 32.9%. Again, converting everything back to a decimal so the math is easier. And that will give you a decimal of 0.149, which you can then convert to 14.9%. Okay, hope everybody's following, okay? Now, this is the amount that you're going to be able to deduct from your home expenses for your in-home childcare services. And we have simply completed all 5 steps, but we have one more step to go. So I mentioned that we would cover exclusive use in a later step. So here it is. Step 6, you're going to divide the exclusively used space by the total square footage of your home and add it to the results that you came up with in step 5. So first, determine the percentage of your home used exclusively for your childcare program using the method that's outlined in step 1 and step 2. So you're simply going to repeat step 1 and step 2. Now, again, these are spaces only used for childcare business and not for personal. That's exclusive. So if you have an exclusive use space that is maybe 100 square feet, in addition to your regular use space of 1,000, then you're going to simply divide 100 by the total square footage of your home, which is 1,000, and that will give us 10%. It actually gives us a decimal, but we'll just convert it over to a percentage. So this is the percentage that, well, then you're going to take your 10% or your 0.10 exclusive use space. You're going to multiply it by the decimal that you got for your regular use space, which was 0.172. And that will give you a new decimal of 0.272, which you can then convert to a percentage of 27.2. So this is going to be the percentage that you can apply to your shared home business expenses for your in-home childcare services when claiming the business use of home for tax time or for grants. Okay, now here's some exciting to note. Wonder School has added a time space percentage calculator to in the CCMS, the platform for family childcare providers. Now, if you want to learn more about how to access the time space percentage calculator on Wonder School, you can simply scan the QR code in the lower right-hand corner for a one-on-one support with the New Mexico specialist. Okay. Now we will be able to see this QR code one more time later on. So if you don't have enough time to scan it, we'll make sure that we leave that screen up a little longer when we enter the big room. And it's a little small here, but hopefully you are able to see it. So we'll go ahead and keep going. Now you can also use this helpful worksheet to calculate your time space percentage, and we will share a link with you in the chat when we enter the big room so that you have access to that as well. Now, when using your time space calculations for tax purposes, you are encouraged to review the IRS instructions for Form 8829. That is expenses for business use of your home, or you can consult with a professional tax preparer. That's a really handy tool that can be used. All right, so we're going to check the chat to see if there are any questions. But before we do, please note that if you need more help, you can visit www.crecernm.org. There's the contact information. You can sign up for coaching. There are additional resources and tools that can help you build your business. Now, ECED has made significant investments on behalf of the children, families, and childcare providers of New Mexico. Investing in business supports and technology solutions because your long-term success matters. Now, one of those resources available to you for free that supports your business practices is Wonder School. Wonder School is a childcare management tool that helps you track your income and expenses, It helps you streamline your finances with recruiting or recurring payment plans. And it offers reports such as profit and loss statements, as well as finances at a glance. Now, in addition, Wonder School offers one on one support, including technology assistance. It has tools, resources, and supports available in English and in Spanish. And more importantly, it's free for you as a provider and for families. Now, if you are interested in learning more, like I said before, simply scan that QR code on the screen. You can meet with the specialist for New Mexico, and she will get you all squared away with anything that you may need in the line of resources, one on one support, or anything that you're looking for from there. So today's solution is Wonder School in our partners with ECE CD. Now, they have managed or made significant investments on behalf of everyone that is providing care in New Mexico. And we are excited to make sure that you are aware of the technology solutions uh, and Child Care Finder are one of the tools that Power School has. Uh, Child care management systems. Like I said before, there is in-person assistance, technology assistance, and all tools and resources are free. And again, they are available in English and in Spanish.